Rampela, when Jacob Zuma was the president, she disclosed that she had 50 million rands, and Jacob Zuma must also subject himself to lifestyle audit. Forbes Africa, they said Mampela is lying because they done an assessment and they realized 2 years prior she was worth 500 million. That's why they were asking, what did you do near 450 million in less than 2 years? The reason that I spoke of gender-based violence in the camps, especially in Exile, it's because the effects and the implications, they are progressive. I don't want to use the word progressive because progressive has some positive connotation, but continuous and into the country. And I believe women in the ruling party, in government, they are still scared of these men. Hence, they have never put forward their female candidate for presidency of the ANC and eventually the president of the country. Robert Mugabe, this is not allegedly. When Lindiwe Zulu announced my elections, or she made a comment on my elections as Zimbabwe, Robert Mugabe called Lindiwe Zulu a street woman. And Lindiwe Zulu said that's his opinion. There's nothing more you could have said. And you ask yourself, what is it that Robert Mugabe knew? Some of them, they were in Zimbabwe before they were expelled. Welcome. This is Ike, and this is Live with Ike one more time. Different studios. We keep on moving between, Studio A and Studio B. And today we are at the same old location that where we started. And today I got a couple of things that I want to share with the audience. There's so many things that are happening. And one of the issues that has been making the rounds in the airwaves, or on the airwaves, it has been the issue where in one of the interviews I was interviewed and I had mentioned the ANC in Exile, how they treated their female comrades. And I had quoted Ayanda Dlodlo when she was with Power FM, interviewed by JJ Taban. I remember that show vividly because I was also invited to be one of the contributors. A producer Ike called me, Ike, do you want to be part of the show? And she had said, or I hate using allegedly, but I heard her saying, and if I'm wrong, I will apologize. She said when they arrived in Exile, they gave them prevention pills and not guns. And that came after the ANC Women League. I think at that time it was Angie Mutsecha. And Mutsecha was asked as to why is it that women in the ANC, they are not supporting their female candidate, but they are supporting Jacob Zuma at that time. They are always supporting a male candidate. And, the vibe was that the female comrades in the ANC, they are scared of their male counterparts because of what had happened in Exile. And if you go through the TRC reports, you will check and see Uguti. There were reports of sexual abuse in the ANC camps by their male counterparts, their commanders, not only in the ANC, the PAC as well, ZANU PF. Actually, it has been a norm in the liberation movement with many females went into exile and they were abused that side. They came back. Some they were married to these guys. That I can understand because when people are together, they tend to, socialize. But there are guys who came back, who left 1976 with their girlfriends, some with their wives, and they were separated. And they do make mention, Uguti, the commanders, when they got into the other side, they took their wives. And if a woman could not cooperate, remember, you are far away from home. They could simply say you were a spy, you were an enemy agent. And once they say you are an enemy agent, you're sealed. Your faith was sealed. anything can happen to you. Those reports were brought into the TRC, Truth and Reconciliation Commission. Unfortunately, the ANC, when they took over power, they never followed up on those reports. And there are so many, like the ANC killing their comrades who were questioning, especially the 76 generation that went to exile. They found these guys in exile who left in the 60s. They had no fight in them. They didn't have the will to come back and fight. They were sitting in exile. Their leaders, they were making money at their expense, or they were running a scam, pretending to be fighting a war. So these guys, because they were still young, they left 1976. They asked these guys who were veterans, Kanti, when are we coming back to South Africa or going back to South Africa and fight? They say in exile, the most dangerous question one could ask is to ask, when are we going back to South Africa? Because the likes of Oliver Tambo's, they were running a scam. Because Oliver Tambo was in London. Remember, we were colonized by the British Empire. The Afrikaners were also conquered in 2 wars, Anglo-Boer wars. They were conquered by the British Empire, and therefore there were managers in the system. And how is that possible that the leader of a revolutionary movement, he goes and live in London? And when he was not in London, he was in Lusaka. You can see the house of Oliver Tambo. It's, in opulence. I'm not surprised when the Jacob Zuma, when they came here, they lived in opulence next to the poor. Imagine Che Guevara's, Fidel Castro living like that, and, next to people who are poor. It's unheard of, because if you're a guerrilla, you must live like the people. Thomas Sankara showed us. He died with no money. This guy was a president. He died in his 30s. Hugo Chavez, he lived like the people. Che Guevara was a medical doctor, and he was in the forefront. And in his will, he says that he leaves nothing. His regret is that he did not live long enough to fight imperialism. So these guys, they were Scotanis from day one, because the Oppenheimers, when they sent their delegation to meet them in the 70s, 80s in exile, they said they were shocked because they found the Bojo Mudise, they were dressed up, exorbitantly. They were filled, with luxury, their cars that they were driving. They said, after all, these guys are not that bad, and they started to pump in money. Actually, they bought them in exile. Hence, you'd hear stories. Ukuthi bathi Joe Modise would send the guerrillas to Hook Street and say, Milaiti Khankop mi Asexon and a Brentwood. And this is a trained guy, but he's sent to Hook Street in the 80s, 70s to go buy Brentwood, to buy all those things that they couldn't get in Zambia. So these guys, they live like that. And now we romanticize them because we did not know them. But the people who knew them better are people who took leadership in the TBV states. There you're talking about Abafana Nabomango Sutu, Mangope Mpepu, all these guys who were their contemporaries, because remember, they went to school together. Those days, colleges were few, universities were few. So they met up Forte, they met up go Adams College. They knew each other. Hence, these ones, they were defiant. We did not understand as a youth, why is it that Abo Mangosutu, Bompepu, they're not part of these guys? Because they knew them. Chief Lucas Mangope knew them. He even said that these guys, they live in, in a disgusting way. There's debauchery, and we dismissed him because they knew each other. Abo Mugabe, they went, to study before 10, Abo Robert Subukwe. So it becomes a norm. If somebody is my contemporary and all of a sudden is placed in leadership, I'm going to have that and say, no, not this one. This one. That's why they took self-governing. That's why they defied them. And once these guys, they came back, we were shocked. Maybe ANC, they found themselves in the leadership by sheer accident. The Boers, they realized that, these communists are not bad after all. And then they decided to promote the figures of Mandela. They decided to promote the ANC because the ANC was a softer organization. It was more of human rights organization as opposed to the PCM. Hence, when you talk of June 16, nobody knows of TSA Mashinini. Nobody speaks of Stephen Biko. Had it not because of Mampele Rampele and Biko's child, people would forget of Biko. People have forgotten of Mangoliso Sobukwe. This is the man who was mostly photographed back in the days. This is a man who was mostly recorded. Hence, today you cannot find the voice of Sobukwe. It has disappeared in the SABC. It has disappeared Kuma archives with BBC. But you can find the voice of Mandela that was recorded in the 50s. You can find somebody who became a boxer like Jack Johnson, Ngaboma 1908, but you cannot find the voice of Sobukwe, the man who was mostly recorded at that time. So that is the problem where we find ourselves, because these guys were deemed to be more dangerous than the ANC, because Robert Sobukwe, when he was arrested, they asked him in court, Robert, why are you fighting? He said, I want a complete overthrow of the government of the day. I want the return of the land. He did not say, I want equal rights. So they came up with the Snyman Commission. The Snyman Commission is the commission that recommended Ogutu Sobukwe must stay longer in jail beyond his term. Hence, Robert Sobukwe is the first man before he was released in jail. The parliament had to reconvene to decide what do you do with Sobukwe. They said no, he must stay longer. He was isolated from all the prisoners in jail. He did not leave Nabo Mandela. Hence, in Robben Island, his house is out there because they say he was a bad influence, and they put him aside to stay there for all his term in jail. That was Robert Sobukwe, because he was fighting for the land. And I remember in one article they have Foster, when international journalists, they're asking him, why is he keeping political prisoners in Robben Island? Foster says there are no political prisoners in Robben Island. The only political prisoner in Robben Island is Robert Sobukwe. These other ones, he doesn't know why they are arrested. He was simply saying, this one, he's fighting for the return of the land. These other ones, they just want human rights. Hence, I'm surprised when you listen to a person like Dikgang Moseneke. Dikgang Moseneke was very unpopular in the PAC, Nabo Tilil, Abo Magwetu, Abo Penny Alexander, because they were deviating from the original position, Abo Mtuping, Abo Sobukwe. They were now betraying. They envied the ANC, especially towards the dream of a new South Africa when it was sold by the George Soros. This is how it's going to look like. Because PAC kept on saying, no, we want the land. There is no freedom without the land. The land was taken away from the people long before 1913. ANC was saying, no, forget the land. We just want political power. And without the land, there is no political power. And when you talk of the land, you talk of the land that was taken by all these companies. Mampele Rampele, when Jacob Zuma was the president, she disclosed that she had 50 million rands. And Jacob Zuma must also subject himself to lifestyle audit. Forbes Africa, they said Mampele is lying because they done an assessment and they realized 2 years prior she was worth 500 million. That's why they were asking, what did you do near 450 million in less than 2 years? Because remember, these guys, when they came back in exile, Harry Oppenheimer had announced these guys, they are dangerous because they are hungry. Remember, most of them, they didn't have houses. They didn't have anything, Hence, they were looking to be sponsored. So, give them a share in the economy so that they can defend it. Mandela was talking of nationalization, which he wants to take over all the strategic mineral mines. He scared white people in America. He scared white people in Genoa. And once you start saying you want to nationalize, who's got ownership of South Africa? It's these companies.
So can you please explain to us why you want to address the situation? Is this something that happened? This is for those that don't know.
The reason that I spoke of gender-based violence in the camps, especially in exile, it's because the effects and the implications, they are progressive. I don't want to use the word progressive because progressive has some positive connotation, but continuous and into the country. And I believe Uguti, women in the ruling party, in government, they are still scared of these men. Hence, they have never put forward their female candidate for presidency of the ANC, and eventually the president of the country. The closest, no, we almost had a female president. It was Winnie Mandela. I don't count Abonkosazana because they were going to be proxies for their husbands. But Winnie Mandela, remember Winnie Mandela was defiant, even to Mandela. They did not see eye to eye. But those attempts, uThabo Mbeki put water on them because in the conference where Jacob Zuma was made a deputy, they actually were countering Winnie Mandela because Winnie Mandela was nominated from the floor by the masses. People loved Winnie Mandela, but they did not give Winnie Mandela a chance to become the deputy president. We all know which eventually the deputy president of the ANC by norm or conduct eventually becomes the president of the ANC from deputy to president. Hence, uThabo Mbeki refused to go to they must adjourn so that she can also consolidate his support. And they dealt with Winnie Mandela. Winnie Mandela even said in that conference, Comrade Thabo, I see what you're trying to do. I see you. And and she declined nomination, and hence Jacob Zuma came into the picture. And gender-based violence will never be taken seriously. And if you check these guys, they don't just promote any woman, be it a DG, be it an MEC, and I know many of them will take offense. They will come out and say, no, I was not abused, no, I was not a victim. Check during Iragambeki, all these ministers, deputy, it was husband and wife. Omunye makakuyi-DG, omunye minister, omunye high commissioner, ambassador. They don't just appoint a woman straight from varsity with qualifications. And it kind of feel like even the women in the ANC or in government, they've got this thing will not allow any woman to come from the street because we've also sacrificed with our lives. We are also abused. We've also paid the price. It's not like in jail. You can't be a general until now you go through the initiation process. So it feels like that. Gauteng, not Gauteng, I want to say Free State. Many comrades, they've approached me, in person. Some will say, I intervene. I said, no, I don't have a dog in a fight. Because they were saying their leadership is abusing female comrades, not only abusing them, infecting them with HIV. And there was...
Allegedly.
Yeah, they were saying that. They were saying that. It's them saying that, it's them who can testify. I'm simply saying what they were telling me. They will send a comrade, but they go to China and do 1, 2, 3, and then they are left with your wife. And that's how they operated. Hence, I'm talking about that. And you can see now for yourself. I remember Robert Mugabe. This is not allegedly. When Lindiwe Zulu announced my elections, or she made a comment on my elections as Zimbabwe, Robert Mugabe called Lindiwe Zulu a street woman. And Lindiwe Zulu said that's his opinion. There's nothing more he could have said. And you ask yourself, what is it that Robert Mugabe knew? Some of them, they were in Zimbabwe before they were expelled. So that's why I'm saying it's jobs for sex. In municipality, you hear that all the time. Hence, I'm saying in the midst of gender-based violence, these guys are not going to do anything about it. They're not going to counter it because they don't understand it. That's how they lived in exile. Hence, when you hear today that a man has stabbed or shot his girlfriend, it's making waves, but in government, not even the president is mentioning it. There was a guy last year in KZN, I think it's on Facebook, he shot that he has footage that he has killed, a girlfriend. I mean, the president, should be saying something. Government, the police, Minister of Police should be saying something, and even if one says, I condemn, which for me, it's something that needed to be touched with how these guys lived in exile. It has an impact on how, yeah.
All right. So my question is, do you think that these men that were in exile are not giving women opportunity to leadership opportunities because of how they see them or how they've always perceived women during the time they were in exile together?
And are the women that are currently in leadership only in leadership because the men in power are paying them back or remunerating them back for all their advances or sexual favors that they did back in exile, right? And lastly, is this the source of their money? You're the one that mentioned which Mampela has 500 million hidden somewhere. Are they getting the money from their previous activities? Are they getting paid back from that? Or is there another source that we don't know about that you can enlighten us with? See, where are they getting their money and how does that affect South Africa and its future?
Let me start with Umampela Rampela, Umampela. The money that she got, remember, she's been offered opportunities. I place her in the same position as Abu Tokyo, Petrus Motsepe, Bodikgang Moseneke, and Tato Mutlana. These were the poster boys of BEE. These were guys who were used by these multinationals. Remember what I said earlier with Oppenheimer said, we must give these guys a certain percentage so that they can defend this economy, so that they can have a sense of ownership, and also they sit in boards. And once they are there, they can also be utilized as brokers between business and government. Remember what happened in Marikana. Cyril Ramaphosa was sitting in Lone Mill. And when they needed him, these shareholders who've got muscle, they sent him to go talk to your people, bring the police here. So that's the purpose that they serve. They don't just give shares to any black person. They give shares to people with a political clout so that they can use you later. So they can tell you, go to Thabo Mbeki, rise now. We've seen Thabo Mbeki rising, opposing lots of things that were happening with ANC when Ramaphosa was adopting even the expropriation bill. You know, they're, they're sent by those, that have given them money, or those that sent them, because we are in a democracy where the lobbyists, the multinationals, they are in control. A voter in the streets, he has no power. We are ruled by these multinationals who've ruled the world since the industrialization, since the Enlightenment. When it comes to the question of women in the ANC, obviously they are there. They are seen but not heard. And nobody takes them seriously unless you are married to so and so. It is, the personal choice of these guys to raise them. But all these organizations, you can check from opposition parties, it is a man's world. Politics is a man's world. It's like the taxi association, it's a man's world. You get in there because they want you to get in there and you push a certain mandate. You can see now with Mampisa Ngagula. Are you telling me, Uguti, the president doesn't have a say? Here's Vusi Pikoli fought Thabo Mbeki when Jay Kislebi was arrested. The president does know. He's told which the Speaker of Parliament is going to be arrested. Of course, he's going to say it doesn't interfere in the judiciary. That's the right thing to say. Or it sounds right to say, I'm executive, I have no power. But though you cannot just arrest a minister or prosecute the minister or any, person at the level is speaker, and Ramaphosa doesn't know. He's told, and he's got the power to stop it. Like you've seen, Andile Ramaphosa is mentioned in the state capture. Who's chasing Andile Ramaphosa? Glencoe is mentioned. Shanduga is mentioned. It is, in charge of load shedding. The fight between Abu Shanduga, Glencoe, and Abu Guptas, they are highly implicated. Cyril Ramaphosa's company is implicated. Even when Cyril Ramaphosa became the deputy president, when he was brought in by Zuma, most of his mines, they were owing water, electricity, but they were given, a green light to go ahead. So these things, they are made by human beings, but you'll be told about the processes. They prosecute who they want to prosecute. Like we've seen during Iraga Tabombeki, the Scorpions, they were chasing the opponents of Mbeki. Hence, they left so many. I was not, a fan of Mbeki or Zuma, but you could see, you could know they're chasing one side. Even the state capture, Zondo, is chasing one side. I mean, Masila Koko is not a small boy. Montana is not a small boy. Brian Molefe is not a small boy. These are CEOs of parastatals. When they say Cyril is implicated, but we're told about the terms of reference. A commission cannot be confined to terms of reference. If I'm a police officer assigned to go investigate a murder case, on my way to investigate a murder case, I cannot avoid a person who's stealing a car and say, no, my job is to go and arrest the person who's implicated go murder. That's what Zondo did. So these things, they don't happen by chance. But women in the ANC, it's not any women. You've seen Ngabo Tutumieni. Once you follow them, they will tell you, no, he's got a child with this one unomntana nozuma, this one is not any person that they put into this position. It's, comrades to comrades, doing each other favors. They know each other. Hence, I said, even Ayanda Dlodlo herself, she came back. She went to one of the guys who was interviewing me, saying that, no, it never happened like that. Everybody says, that's what she said. There's newspaper articles. There are people who are coming out now saying, no, that's what she said. In Exile, we're given prevention pills, not guns, So, yeah, so I will leave it at that. But the ANC, I was once in one of the WhatsApp group. Yeah, there's so many WhatsApp groups. They had all the ministers there. They had all the premiers there and the influencers. I asked them a question. Nobody came, to answer that question. Why is it that all these comrades, they're always found, sexual accusations, charges, they're always, implicated, whether, successfully so or not, but they're always accused. And I remember at that time, Pule Mabe was being accused of sexual harassment. Zizu Kodwa was also accused. That article, because Zizu Kodwa has since disappeared in the print and also online, because it was one of Mandela's granddaughters or granddaughter. She said Zizi Kodwa, spiked her drinks. They were there together. And she remembers taking a sip, and she doesn't know ukuthi kwenzakaleni. She woke up and then she was saying Zizi Kodwa took advantage of her. And Abovavi, the same stories, job for sex. Many of them, Mandela's grandson was accused of rape. And then the case yakhona yaphelele emoyeni, how. So it shows how they view these cases. They might be sensitive to you, they might be a burning issue to you, but to them, it's not. And I remember when Vavi was also accused, and one trade union, I can't remember what union was that, but no, he didn't do anything abnormal. He's a man. So that's what is happening in these organizations. I wish they could, follow up. Even some of their comrades who are missing, who never came back inside the country after the ANC was unbanned. A lot of skeletons, will be unveiled. Some, they don't want to come back. Those who are still alive, they went to London. They said, I want nothing to do with these guys. So we are ruled by thugs. And hence today, they have looted every SOEs. I mean, you hear about Paul, they're implicated everywhere. After the 3 billion, got missing in Alexander for renewal project, and guys, they mushroom, owning our hotels. You check the lottery. There's a scandal, Sago lottery, where people have been accused. They're chowing the lottery money. They're even fixing the numbers. And we used to hear people saying, these numbers, they're loaded or they're fixed. There was a time where The lotto number was saying 5 6. It was, I don't know, like, it cannot be like when it says 5 6 7 8 9 and then the bonus number is 10. I remember even when it started, there was a time where the lotto would be say 2 4 6 8. How possible is that when the numbers are following each other like that, and hence they're supposed to be coming at random? So these guys, they've taken us to the lowest low. And I blame the people of South Africa who kept on voting the ANC into power. And now the ANC, they've reached a stage where they realized, Oguchi, they are going down. And whoever is in who is in a position of power, he's looting like there is no tomorrow, because he knows very well that he won't be there tomorrow. Even if the ANC retains the very same number of votes that they have, but Yena personally, he won't be there. So he's looting. He probably doesn't want to end up like Bo Balfour. Yes.
These ANC people that are looting right now, right? Will there be no consequences for them? Because if they know that they're falling, the ANC is just falling, and everything is just going the way it's going, then maybe there'll be now a new party that's elected, or new president. Will they not investigate what the ANC has been doing, or these final lootings that are happening?
Look, there's always a possibility that you'll be caught or you can be arrested when you do crime. But criminals, they always take a chance. You always believe that it won't be you. And you cannot, put your chances on what you don't know tomorrow. They take the chances anyway, hoping ukuthi, I won't be arrested, hoping ukuthi they will cover themselves. And I'm sure Abu Mchunu, they never thought ukuthi Mkhwanazi one day will come and say they're implicated. It happens, that way in all syndicates. You hope that you will succeed, even if others are being arrested. You hope that you won't be the one. And besides, I mean, the opposition, DA also has its own scandal. EFF, PA, and I mentioned Gatin. He's a mascot and a clown, and an influencer to the GNU. And I remember this week in one of the interviews, I said, if you want to know a person like Gatin, he was supporting Zuma. All of a sudden, he's supporting Cyril Ramaphosa. He's always moving in between issues. He never has one particular issue. He checks what is trending. He checks what is, in the moment. Next thing is for colored votes. When he realizes that issue has died down, is for prisoners. Next thing is for Abahambe. And a person like that, for me now, I termed him as a man. The way he came out of jail, first of all, he spied on his fellow inmates, which they were getting certain privileges that he himself was getting. And someone was asking me a question on that, what do you say? What are you saying about, the corruption in jail? Look, I know guys in jail, some maximum. And I asked them about phones, about certain privileges. I don't condone gang violence and rapes. But this guy said the prison officials, they do allow us to have phones. It's not allowed in terms of the law or regulations, but he said they turn a blind eye, because if they don't allow us, the jail, or jail cells, they become uncontrollable. There's no order. He says, must put on my phone, at least we are distracted. We're using Facebook, even the gang violence. Yeah. Hence, sometimes doing what is right can be wrong in that case. Because if you're saying all the phones, the privileges gone, and there will be chaos that you cannot control. He said they allow us to smoke dacha because they know that if we smoke, we calm down. There are no stabbings. There's no violence. Gangs are not fighting. And it's for that. The same analogy that I use, prostitution is wrong. But if as a criminal or a criminal department or a police, we were to be harder on all the prostitutes, including people who are buying, jails will be full. Some of these prostitutes, they've got kids. The chaos that could erupt from there, you would arrest maybe in Joburg, let's say you arrest 500,000. You could not manage that system. you'll do more damage than, good. Hence, they turn a blind eye, but still discourage it. Adultery, during the apartheid, it was criminal. Now, it's a moral issue. But they were not persecuting it like someone who's killed a person. Hence, I say, look, 18, we are sitting here in jail. The police are giving us alcohol. They're giving us privileges that you normally would not get. Some they're even having conjugal rights that they shouldn't get. Some they're even sleeping with female prisoners. And were not just because you want to get out, you drown another person. Even in gang culture, even in any culture, that's a sellout position. After you've also benefited those, in those privileges. Hence, I look at the character like him and how they got rich. You go to the community of River Lee. That's where they made their money. Not Ngama nightclub. Nightclub doesn't make money. It's just, an institution used to move money. I mean, when you mine, these mines that were closed, you promise people, we're going to open, we're going to employ people, we're going to develop the area around. They never did that, according to my knowledge. They mined and gone before the Zamazamas came in. And all of a sudden, they become like Sodi, they become like Mamkeze, and hence, I don't have hope in the opposition. You look at about Julius Malema. I mean, the monies that they were making, they could not account for in the ANC Youth League. Even now, Julius Malema says you must take land where you see, when you see a land vacant or land that you want to settle, go. Yena is not taking land. He follows all the banking protocols. He follows all the laws of the land to acquire a property in Sentin or Hyde Park. It's even living in the house belonging to Mazot. If it's true, it belongs to Mazot. I suspect that, it's not. So where's the house that he has expropriated? Where's the land that he has expropriated? Robert Sobuga was an exemplar. When he said, away with past laws, he is the one who went first to Orlando police station. He said, arrest me, I don't have my pass. So if you're a revolutionary, you must lead from the front. Not what he's doing says, I'm here to arrest the revolution. You don't want to have an unled revolution. So I'm here to give these people hope so that they can feel that there is somebody who's representing them. That's what he said. When you look at Abu Helen Zille, I mean, why DA was established to safeguard the interests of the miners or mining owners. From Gobo ZDPX, Sabo DP, these are liberals, who were chaotic. Even the issue of immigration, DA, they want, South African borders to be opened. Company owners, they don't care because they want a race to the bottom. They know that you're competing with somebody from Malawi, for a job. And that person can take anything. He can take even 2 rands. And when you live here, you say, I need a living wage. That's what they want to do. Abu Cecil John Roads, it's an extension about DA. They wanted the Cape to Cairo, where it's a free-for-all. There's nothing wrong with trading as Africans, but they want that open border where they advertise and anyone can come. It becomes the race to the bottom. Look what happened when ShopRite went to Nigeria. They advertised 400 jobs for tellers. 5 million people applied. And what rights do you have? Like in China, if you're sick today, you're absent, tomorrow you find that you've been replaced. There are no labor laws. You are dismissed willy-nilly. They talk that language about DA. No, you must dismiss and fire as you want. No just process. I mean, we live in a constitutional democracy. People need to be afforded the right. Imagine you are not at work because you are sick. When you come back, there's somebody new, but no, go home. Terminated. So they're creating a sweatshop. South Africans, they've been through colonialism, they've been through apartheid, they've suffered the longest. Their colonialism lasted the longest. I mean, since we were conquered, 1652, up to 1994, we've suffered more than all these other countries who are coming here. And the countries where they had their own version of BE, where they chase white people, bo Zimbabwe, bo Kenya, bo Angola, bo Mozambique, they're following them here. Hence, I complain with the very same white people who were chased that side. They also employ these guys. And these guys, when they kill them in the farms, they say it's black people, but they don't say it's these guys, Zimbabweans. Black people didn't kill white people during apartheid when they had the motivation or a just cause to do so. Because remember, the Afrikaners, they Christianized black people. Black people in South Africa, they stand in a unique position. They don't have jihad. They believe in thou shalt not kill. They believe thou shalt not steal. Hence, they are big on ethics, even culture. The Basotho culture, the Bazulu, Amazulu culture, Tswana, Swati, it's almost the same. People know when to slaughter. They slaughter for the same reasons at a certain time. When a child is born, 1 year, they do almost similar things. Even values, even our folk tales, at school, when they do a recitation, they will tell you there's a Zulu recitation where they say kwakhona ikhehla lihamba seligugile wahleka umfana waphenduka ikati. Those false tale, they were told so that you don't laugh at a person who's in an unfortunate situation. But 1994 came. We started to open borders. We started to see crimes that we'd never experienced in magnitude. We started seeing buildings written not for sale. We started to see prostitution. Today, all these political parties, they say bring back prostitution. Julius Malema says legalize prostitution. Even this child from Malawi, Nadidi Chirwa, she was pushing for prostitution. Prostitution should not be legal. And I'll tell you why. Politicians, they are the worst people to push for prostitution. They come with reasons such as, no, these guys, they'll be regulated, they'll be taxed, they'll be given free access to medics, they'll be protected. Drug dealers can also use the same example and say, okay, let's legalize drugs. Let Nyaopi people smoke freely so that they can access health. And then drug dealers are also, protected. You can tax them. You can use the same example, word for word. But here's my biggest issue. One becomes a prostitute because of socio-economic conditions. There is no child at 5, 4, when the school teacher asks and say, what do you want to be when you grow up? And raises the hand. She says, I want to be a prostitute. And the parents clap hands. They say, that's nice. So I want to be a stripper. Prostitution is because of, I normally say 3 reasons. Maybe there are more. Poverty, drugs, or you've been kidnapped, human trafficking, you're trafficked, and then you ended up in prostitution. All these conditions, poverty, the politicians must solve. Human trafficking is a crime. Politicians must solve. Drugs, there shouldn't be drugs, people smoking drugs, which led people to immoralities. All these politicians must solve. You do away with this, there's no prostitution. Therefore, politicians, when they say, legalize prostitution, they are cutting corners. The ANC government, one day, they're going to tell us that they've created job opportunities, meaning prostitute, drug dealers, and how far can it go? This is what has happened 1994 when they freed the devil, when the Freemasons came in here, when the globalists started to run our politics, promoting all these liberal laws. UDA, they talk of liberal laws. They are too liberal. And there is no distinction between all these parties. Even MK was in power. Jacob Zuma was pushing for the globalist agenda. It's only later when he started to sing a different tune, when he realizes what he's losing out, he announced a free education on the eve of his departure to booster Nkosazana Zuma's bid because Cyril Ramaphosa was winning at Nasrec. The eve, free education, land, all those things. Like Mugabe when he was talking in land, when he realizes that he's losing elections. And the very same Jacob Zuma who came Ngabukhulubuse, is that empowering a black child? Why couldn't he empower a black child in the space of Gupta's use black people? Is Tutuzana Zuma part of that empowering a black child? Zuma's children, all of a sudden, they're running production companies. I saw one of the actors, a guy that I know very well, Glenn Gabela. He's living in abject poverty. They showed where he lived. He's lost, even that sense of respect, even now he no longer cares. They showed this one room where he stays. I don't know if you've seen it. It is sad. And Glenn Kabela has been an actor from back in the days. I remember one of the stories, Mhla Laduma, Bekuwaka. This is a veteran actor, and that's not only him. I've seen Abu Vustanda, Uchawe. I know him very well. I've worked with Vustanda. All these guys, I've known them, in the unions. Then you had Jacob Zuma's children mushrooming, Bauna, Bozalo. Since when? All of a sudden they become a multimillionaire. His wives, all of a sudden, they're running NGOs simply because he became a president. And you are told, with this guy is empowering a black child. He was empowering himself. Kulubus, they're buying him a Ferrari. Is that part of the strategy? I asked them when they're talking about RET. RET stands for Radical Economic Transformation. I said, buying a Ferrari, is it part of that? I mean, Kulubusa couldn't even, get on that Ferrari. Because the car is very low. So that's not. Imagine a guy renovating his house. Let's say it's true, it's 250. How much is the house then? They say it was renovated. Even if it was renovated in 50 million, it means the house is a billion. And this house was renovated twice. When he was a deputy president, it was renovated again when he became a president. And we are told, Uguti Kwazam Konto, he's talking, Uguti, you will change the lives of black people. He failed to do that when he was a president. Instead of the Western capture, he was taking us to the Eastern capture, to be captured by China. Lots of industries closed down under Zuma and Mbeki. They've signed up these treaties that close textile. We used to know people, they were working long day, crisis, ngetimela, baze bafike go GP, going there, all that died down under the ANC. Things that they found here, the railway system, what fits, railway system, people standing at the stations, all that died. We started seeing trucks. So it is unfortunate that we find ourselves where we are at the moment. Look, if they do that, they will not be doing something new that was never done. I mean, back in the days, we know the government of the day, the apartheid government, they also trained prisoners. Some they used to work kuma farms. It was cheap labor then. But ambars, sorry, people when they came out of jail, they could start and build furniture from the scratch. Some they came out as electricians, some they could fix cars. And I don't know why they stopped that, but it is Thabo Mbeki. And Thabo Mbeki is hailed as the intelligent president. For me, now, that's why I normally say that he's a failure. Actually, I even told him, I had an encounter with Thabo Mbeki. I asked him a question, Uguti, most people say you're an intellectual. Do you consider yourself an intellectual? Because I said, for me, an intellectual is somebody who solves the problem. If you don't solve it when physically, give us the mechanism or write a paper or write a book to say this is how the problems is solved or it's going to be solved. And that program must work. Thabo Mbeki killed everything when he came in because he adopted the globalist agenda. When Nelson Mandela said, RDP is no longer the program of government. We are adopting gear, and no one should question gear. Kosatus tried to fight. Meet term Mandela. It has never happened where with less than 5 years before election, we just take a dive and we take something else. And gear introduced, I'm a labor broker. Introduced Abu BEE, accelerated BEE, where they empowered few comrades. They closed colleges, they closed nurses' colleges, they merged these universities, they killed Abu Medunsa. You now call the Medunsa University of Tshwane at some point. I went to Medunsa some other time. It looked like a high school. And they took Abo Railway. We knew back in the days that if you were employed by government, there was job security. They gave it to their comrades. They subdivided Abo Railway, Gunabo Prasa, Gunabo Transnet. And they did that with all the parastatals. They put their comrades, go SAA. They killed everything because they wanted to empower themselves. They privatized almost everything that was nationalized. Amapono, they were not stupid when they nationalized Abo Sosol. It was a strategy to empower the poor Afrikaners, to train them. I mean, I remember not Eskom, Telkom. Back in the days, it fell under post office. eyazimela yaba independent, it owned Vodacom. They sold Vodacom. Abo Smart Ngonyama came in, Abo Elephant Consortium. They took that Vodacom shares from Telkom to private hands. They asked Smart, what I did not struggle to be poor. That's what they did. And there was no trickle-down effect under Thabo Mbeki. And everything Mbeki, it has failed. Be it BEE, which was revised as triple BEE, GIA failed and it was revised as triple in GIA, was revised as GIMSA. It was changed into so many things. African Renaissance doesn't exist. Even the National Creditors Act, it was mainly to, protect the very same, financiers who've been, fixing the rent, who've been looting us, charging interest rates higher. Like we've heard, there are certain banks who are charging black people higher. They did not loan people monies because we were told in a recession, but the comrades were getting deals. So under Mbeki, the situation, became worse. The gap between the rich and the poor surpassed that of Brazil. And people who died because of lack of ARVs, Mbeki, while he was still questioning what does HIV causes AIDS, you don't question, when your house is on fire, you first deal with the fire. Even a madman is allowed, to quell down the fire. And then you can have an intellectual debate. Thabo Mbeki was spending time on internet, and waking up tomorrow, adopting all these conspiracies. Maybe somewhere he was right, but when your house is on fire, you first deal with the fire, and then you have, discussions like now we have the dialogue, and I feel that South Africa did not need a dialogue. We know what's to be done. Like Cyril Ramaphosa was gaslighting people, which we need to question. Why is it that the gap between the white and poor is broad? Salaries. Why women are suppressed? Why the LGTB community? Nobody's talking of LGTB community rights. So we all know, why these problems exist. Them is to solve. It doesn't make sense, for politicians to do a door-to-door campaign every elections. They know that people are hungry. They know that people are not working. They know people don't have houses. They know what causes that, but they are not willing. They just pretend to be listening to people. When they go there, they implement laws that are not helping people. They're flooding the people versus South Africa with foreigners, Betrayal, and all these guys. They come straight from Zambia today, one day, go to Raima Musa, go to Para. A South African cannot access those services. Squatter camps is no longer South Africans there. Even the soccer fields that used to be there, for kids to train, is now squatter camps. Now new squatter camps. Graveyards have been looted. There's no fence there. People are looting tombstones. Crimes that we don't know. Because South Africans, remember, they are Christians. South Africans are Christians. Apartheid said, this is a Christian country. And you check now, even double-decker highway, when it's raining, it's flooding. These guys were apartheid, as bad as they were, but they knew how to administer water. Goes to tunnel, back to the dams. You check Hartbeespoort, Hartbeespoort Dam is dead. Boval dead. There's plants growing there. Everything has collapsed under the ANC, and nothing is working. Even the police, you don't see what is happening, in terms of visible policing. I mean, in the city of Johannesburg, people are looting copper under the street. Brest Street, it's a historic street, still not functioning because there were Zamazamas underground cutting things. There was gas, there's gases underneath. They tampered with the gas and then there was an explosion. Because they put in engineers there and, investigators, assessors, they could not find the leaks. The story is that there were Zamazamas found there. Johannesburg Metro went underneath chasing those guys. Who else could interfere with Johannesburg? Johannesburg is supposed to be, the richest city in Africa. Look at the Sandton. Sometimes, not sometimes, all the time, robots are not working in Sandton. The richest square mile in Africa, the pride of Africa, Sandton doesn't have working robots. We've got potholes in Sentin because of my comrade and because the people they voted these guys without accountability, without punishing these guys. Hence, I wish that South African masses, they could stop marching a bit, take these guys to court, challenge them. Afrikaners and AfriForum, they challenge people, when they messed with their rights. Now you should challenge them, target their pensions. Because you were in government, you were a minister, and you failed to deliver 1, 2, 3, 4. Why must you be entitled to a pension? Why must you be entitled to the shares in your company? Boshanduga. We should challenge them. They did that to Mkhwebane. Cyril Ramaphosa's government did that to Mkhwebane as a public protector. They first took her out and then they said she's not entitled to that 10 million. She's still fighting. By the time she finishes, she would have spent maybe 20 million paying legal fees. So that's what they do. So now, why can't we do the same? Boycott them instead of marching. If you march, what are you achieving? Besides promoting a few televangelists who are also going to be co-opted, if you march, they don't answer you. You come back and march again. It has no impact. The same way as people saying we need a referendum on death penalty. A referendum is not a prerequisite to passing any law. It has no impact. It's just to see, people want that to do a referendum. But in our laws, there is no section that says before you pass a law, you must do a referendum. You just want to see, do people, want whatever changes that you want. There's a way of changing laws. And they normally say that, we'll bring back a death sentence. You need a referendum. Death sentence is not coming back again. You need a revolution for a death sentence to come back again. Never, never, ever, ever. And people can shout and scream because in terms of our laws, they've done away with it. The Constitutional Court has made a ruling on that, which it's unconstitutional. It's against, human rights. Even if you pass an act, that act will be struck down and it won't be functioning. So that's where we find ourselves. And unemployment is 60% youth, and the youth as South Africa, they're now on drugs. And you check, who will lead tomorrow? If you give the youth 60%, the youth as South Africa is not working, and you give them drugs, you give them alcohol. That's why, your normal youth, they tell you about alcohol, celebrities, what's happening around, and nothing more. Nothing more. Yeah. Yeah, you were saying? No, I saw you raising a hand. Yeah, so nothing more. Even girls, and it's promiscuity. You check now what these liberals have done. As I say, they have freed the devil. On TV, all DJs are naked. Somebody's playing with some table, there must be nudity. On TV, it is that because they're writing the agenda. He who's in power dictates what is the agenda of the day. And unfortunately, the agenda of the day is to confuse us. And if you talk like me, you'll be called angry, you'll be called hurt, you'll be called misogyny, toxic masculinity, and then it means you must, agree with the script of the day. Even the churches, they are quiet. People who are supposed to be the moral compass. Name one church leader, like we've heard about Pusak back in the days. We've heard about Desmond Tutu back in the days, who are rising and saying apartheid laws are immoral. Who is the church leader today? They all want to be BEE beneficiaries. They all want to drive a Lamborghini. They all want to be spontaneous. They are corrupt. And these Nigerian churches, they're also coming, foreign churches, misleading people, because when the country is going to a failed state, when people have lost hope, they turn to sangomas, they turn to the church, to miracle pastors to say, I need a fix. Like people play lotto because you realize, I don't have hope anymore. What is, my chance? And then they get abused further. That's why you see in young with TikTok, they're all over misleading people, taking their monies, promising them riches. Somebody doesn't have that riches himself, but he's telling you, I'll make you a millionaire. And why is that, healer not making money, investing money, but they're taking money from you? That's what happened. So in a failed state, The middle class is done away with. You've got the super rich or the rich elites and the poor. It's always that way. And those who are hustling, politicians and church leaders, and yeah, that's it. But if you're a doctor, a teacher, you will struggle. I mean, you tell me. I once asked a question: why would you pay a TV presenter more than you pay a doctor and a school teacher? For me, that comes first. I mean, why would you pay Bonang, Meni Dlamini, to do what? To be a TV presenter. We can do without a TV presenter. I normally say that if one Amapiano DJ, passes away, the society does not suffer. You don't even feel that shortage. But if you kill a doctor, you kill a teacher, already there's a shortage and you can feel the impact. But unfortunately, the abnormal has become normal and we are ruled by these Democrats who are not democratic at all, who are pushing everything that is satanic. And check now the differences. When at school we used to have our assembly as opposed to now. Now everything goes. You can come tomorrow and say I'm a devil worshipper. And what is the end result of a devil worshipper? To harm other people. But people have got a right to do that. So unfortunately, that's where we find ourselves, and it's upon people to change society. But yeah, even the good people in the society, they get tired. Gandhi said, it's hard taking a stand when your own comrades are sitting down. So it's becoming like that. There's little goodness in the world. And yeah, it's the worship of money. It's money, money all the time. If you don't have money at all costs, and where to from now? It's a race to the bottom, and frustration. So we'll see. Hopefully, and yeah, things will change for better. I'm a prisoner of hope, but from where I sit, yeah, I don't see who's gonna be the next Stephen Biko, who's gonna be the next Tsietsi Mashinini. I mean, talking of Tsietsi Mashinini, nobody speaks of Tsietsi Mashinini. Because if you speak of him, you're going to have to speak about what he represented. It doesn't represent what the elites are representing. Even in exile, he was isolated. The person who helped Tsietsi was Umire Makeba. Look at how they treated Umire Makeba. The ANC is nowhere without Umire Makeba in exile. Umire Makeba sacrificed a career. She went to United Nations, was given a speech to say something. She was a superstar at the level of Harry Belafonte. She was recognized by Michael Jackson. But after that speech, after she sided with the people, she was isolated. There was an effort to do away with her. She said, after I've associated with the struggle, it was like the TV was turned off. She married Stokely Carmichael. They came to live in Africa, Bukini. She had passports, I think, in 3 countries. She accommodated people like Abu Tsietsi, because Tsietsi Mashinini remained genuine until he died, because he refused to join the ANC, he refused to join the PAC, because when they got to exile, they said they found all these guys who left in the 60s, they were drinking champagne, cigars, they were abusing their female comrades. They said, we can't be part of that. And then these guys, they plotted, which these guys must be done away with. Hence, they were always running. They were always on the run. Tsietsi said, they said he was killed. Is it in Nigeria? They found him in the streets. And they came, they said it's nervous breakdown. Those who saw him, they say he was bleeding from the ears, who collected him at the airport. The very same Nigerians who are coming here and saying we fought, against apartheid. They scammed each other. They claimed and say they paid money. They scammed each other. If they gave money to the ANC, then they must demand it to the ANC. Nigerians, they were in, civil war from day one. But Somalia, they could not have helped us. They were fighting amongst themselves. Day one, they were liberated, all these African countries. They're just coming here for convenience. They even killed those leaders who were for us. So South Africans, I hope they wake up, and I'm sure and I hope they will before it's too late, because we are being diluted. In the near future, there won't be a real South African. A South African will be someone with a father from Malawi, Ghana, and that person, shut up, this is not your country. Or that person won't have the strong, patriotism like us, who were here during apartheid, who have seen, how things turned out, who fought for the country. That person just wants to survive, and unfortunately, South African women, that's where I blame them. But I blame men more because men allowed that, because it is men who are shaping policy. It is men who are allowing all the nonsense or opening borders. Other countries, they protect their women folk. You cannot go to Saudi Arabia and come and do marriage for convenience and you claim citizenship anyhow because you've got a child there. But China, they protect their own. They expel all these Nigerians. What is the job of a Nigerian? I don't know. They're selling drugs. All these guys, they've separated themselves. Zimbabweans, brutal murder. Cyprus mafia, bouncing industry. It's like they sit somewhere and decide with the Chinese are dealing with clothing, Ethiopian they're dealing with cheap products. It's like they don't disturb each other. The taxis for now it still belong to South Africans. Even taxis, they're gonna take it, the taxi industry in the near future because Zimbabweans are also coming, they're owning, and they're blending nicely. And it's very funny. People always believed that the taxis are gonna save us. No, these guys they're in there for money. And the last time I checked, in PE, is it Quebec, they banned 8 taxis. Somalians. Taxi guys, they ran away like nothing, like children. But today, the taxis, they're fighting in a community which you cannot lift your family or 5 people ahead. I don't know. I stand to be corrected. If there is 4 of you in a car in some areas, but no, they must go to the taxi. If you drive a 7-seater, it's even worse. Even if you're transporting your workers, you're not supposed to do that. They'll say no. If you're in a crash. I remember one lady, she said she began a crash, so begalanda abantwana, abase crash yakhe, but no, you cannot do that. Melalandi takes. It's very funny. They can bully all these people. They cannot bully Somalians. Somalians bend their taxes, ranking. We've never heard which those taxes were repaid. I mean, by now you think that the taxi industry, since they made Toyota famous, especially the Kumbis, the Zolapad, they'll have a share there. It is supposed to come together and negotiate with Japan and say, we want to be part of the value chain. Even if you manufacture tires, our companies can add to the interior, the radio, whatever, but they have not done that. So it is unfortunate. So yeah, this is where we find ourselves, unfortunately. Yeah, so but other than that, as I'm closing, unless you want to add something. Yeah, but I would not close once more without, mentioning Uguti, the gender-based violence. Yeah, it's something that is wrong, and unfortunately, we've got people who are weak now. A South African man now is weak. Sometimes we must accept defeat. Uguti, you know what? I'm no longer loved. You must move. Some of us we've been through the roller coaster here and there. I've been to situation where I've lost, you lose money, and back in the days, it was a general norm. I mean, I spent a lot of time with guys who were quite older than me. Everywhere I go, I always associated myself with guys who were older than me because I always wanted to know. Even in the arts, you won't believe. With among Figago Arts, I joined a union. I just asked, is there a union here? I found Abu Japan Mtembu, Abu Brakit. Those days, because Abu Braken, Ken Camp. I was always around Abu Ken Camp, Abu Rin Tlogwana. Rin Tlogwana died shortly after that. It was that era, Abu Mahlatin. I always associated Nabu Koni Chume, all these people. So you learn a lot, Unfortunately, the youth now, they run away from the elders. All these guys, they were my friends. Bo Praboiki. Praboiki died, I think, 2014. He was born 1930. So those guys, they were my friends. They'll call me, hey, Ike, tell us, kwenziwa kanjani nama-land, the older abovusthanda and all that. So they always tell you, what, when it's done, move on. Whatever that you've spent. So unfortunately, the youth now, they say, I want my phone, I want this, I bought you this, of which I find it strange, no. And you must know by now, but as they normally say, you normally say that that's my favorite subject. But you must understand, the modern people, they're different. They even tell you that we are not our mothers. And I thought that the guys now, they understand that, but they still kill women. You just have to move on and, find a better person who will understand you, because now things happening faster. The attention span is very short. You just have to, say, you know what, yeah, try next door. But killing someone or killing yourself, is never easy. And now, even the depression is quite high because there's social media. People see people posting. They don't ask. Some of the people, they post fake. They pretend to be going to airport. I heard that people are carrying bags and they pretend it ngathi bayagibela bese bashuthi ithombe bayabuya baya emakhaya. And when if you don't know, you think that people are succeeding. People posting champagne and Photoshop images, they'll put pressure go, and these people, they're also struggling. All these influencers. That's why I have problem or a big problem with these influencers on TV. They don't tell little kids good acting ayibhadali ukuthi ungahamba nge-Range Rover. TV presenting ayibhadali that much ukuthi ungaze uhambe nge-Range Rover uhlale stay city. Most of them, it's drug money. Most of them, they in relationships with these criminals that you see, most of them, they deal nalama BEE politicians. Like we've seen Osodi, was dating all these celebrities. They don't say that, but we are selling our bodies, for us to sustain a certain lifestyle. Check all of them, all these baddies, who they're married to, who they're dating. You find which is dating this guy. This guy is a BEE thug. He come in there, umuntu uhamba nge-Range Rover. Like we've seen ngabomandla Mthembu. I remember Kanyimba when it was still coming, people saying Lamborghini, Porsche, Tatap, until it appeared good. No, this guy is sponsoring. That's how they live, many of them. But a child that's still in school, cabanga ukuthi no, mangangena kuyo-actor, and without knowing ukuthi all these producers, I'm saying maybe it's 1% who are good. They're men and they're abusing them. They're abusing them before they get in there. I just don't want to mention names, but almost all of them, they're abusing them. I mean, even back in the days at SAPC, we used to hear which those who are reading news, Kuma roster, for them to appear. Yeah, but other than that, that's all for today. And as they say, you must comment, share, subscribe, and like.